This is the honest truth about your earned benefits. They are not guaranteed forever. You fought for them, you earned them through sacrifice, but the Department of Veterans Affairs operates on rules, regulations, and deadlines, and if you miss one step, if you misunderstand one form, or if you fail to maintain the necessary documentation, the benefits that were supposed to last your entire life can be reduced, suspended, or entirely revoked. We are talking about the foundation of your financial stability, the security of your family, and the health care that keeps you moving. Losing these benefits is not just an inconvenience, it is a catastrophe that ripples through decades. Today, we are diving deep into the 10 most critical, lifelong VA benefits, but more importantly, we are detailing the precise, often overlooked steps you must take right now to protect them for the rest of your life. This isn't about applying for benefits. This is about defending the ones you already have. If you are a veteran, a dependent, or someone who cares for a veteran, every single word of this script is essential reading because the VA will not send you a reminder when your protection is about to expire. The first and arguably most crucial benefit that requires relentless vigilance is your service-connected disability compensation. This is the monthly financial lifeline, the bedrock of stability for hundreds of thousands of veterans, and the one benefit that is most often subject to review and potential reduction if not properly defended. Protecting your disability compensation starts not with filing a new claim, but with understanding the nature of your existing rating. Many veterans assume that once they receive a rating, especially a high one, the fight is over. That could not be further from the truth. The VA has the authority, under specific regulatory guidelines, to schedule you for a routine future examination, or RFE, to determine if your condition has improved. This is where protection begins. You must know if your rating is protected under the 5-year, 10-year, or 20-year rule, or if it has been deemed permanent and total, P&T. If your rating is relatively new, say under 5 years, or if your condition is classified as likely to improve by the VA's diagnostic codes, you are vulnerable. To protect this, you must maintain continuous, detailed medical treatment records showing the persistence and severity of the condition. Stopping treatment because you feel stable is the #1 mistake veterans make that triggers a negative reevaluation. The VA sees a gap in treatment and interprets it as improvement, regardless of how you actually feel. Imagine a veteran rated at 70% for PTSD and chronic pain. They move to a new state, and due to the hassle of finding a new provider, they skip appointments for 18 months. When the RFE notice arrives, the VA medical examiner sees a lack of recent evidence showing active treatment, notes a period of stability in the file, and recommends a reduction to 50%. The veteran is then faced with a lengthy, stressful appeal process just to regain what was already earned. Protection means proactive documentation. It means ensuring that every single visit to a VA facility or a private doctor clearly links your ongoing symptoms back to the service-connected condition. It means understanding that the VA rates based on current evidence of functional impairment, not historical trauma. Furthermore, protecting your compensation means understanding the concept of static disabilities. A static disability is one the VA determines is permanent and unlikely to improve, such as the loss of a limb or certain severe chronic conditions. If your condition is static, the VA should not schedule an RFE. If they do, you must immediately challenge it by referencing the specific VA manual, M211 sections, that define your condition as static. Losing a disability rating, even by a small percentage, impacts not only your monthly income, but also your eligibility for other critical benefits like TRICARE, property tax exemptions, and specialized healthcare priority groups. To keep this benefit for life, you must treat your VA file like a living document that needs constant, careful updates, always focusing on how your condition continues to impact your ability to function in daily life and work. Never assume the VA remembers your history. You must consistently provide the current narrative of your impairment. The appellate process itself, the steps involving the Notice of Disagreement, ONOD, the Decision Review Officer, DRO, and the Board of Veterans' Appeals, BVA, is designed to be complex and time-consuming. Protecting your current rating means avoiding the need for that process entirely through meticulous record-keeping and adherence to treatment protocols. The second lifelong benefit that provides immense security but is often misused or misunderstood is the POM, VA Home Loan Guarantee. This benefit allows eligible veterans to purchase a home with zero down payment and often highly competitive interest rates, a financial advantage that can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. The protection here revolves entirely around maintaining and restoring your entitlement. Your entitlement is essentially the amount the VA guarantees to the lender. Many veterans believe they can only use the benefit once or that using it once means the entitlement is gone forever. This is false, but restoring it requires very specific, intentional actions. To protect the ability to use this benefit throughout your life, perhaps for a starter home, a move-up home, and then a retirement home, you must ensure the previous VA loan is fully paid off and the property is legally sold. If you use the VA loan, move out, and rent the property while still holding the VA loan, you have only partial entitlement remaining, which significantly limits your borrowing power for the next purchase. The critical protective step is filing VA Form 26-1880, the request for a certificate of eligibility, and specifically requesting restoration of your full entitlement after the sale. If you neglect this step, or if the original loan is not fully satisfied, you are unnecessarily handicapping your future. Financial decisions. Furthermore, protecting this benefit means safeguarding your credit profile. While the VA guarantees the loan, the lender still uses standard financial metrics, including credit scores, to approve the loan. A veteran who earned the benefit through service but then lets their credit score plummet due to financial mismanagement essentially loses the practical ability to use the benefit, even though the entitlement technically remains. Therefore, protecting this lifelong benefit means not only understanding the VA's rules on entitlement restoration, but also maintaining disciplined financial health, recognizing that your credit score is the gatekeeper to accessing this powerful, zero-down advantage repeatedly throughout your decades-long housing journey. The biggest threat to this benefit is not the VA, but the veteran's own failure to manage the financial prerequisites necessary for a lender to approve the guaranteed portion. Protecting the VA home loan means protecting your financial reputation. Our third critical lifelong benefit is VA health care, a necessity that becomes even more important as veterans age. The protection here is not about maintaining eligibility. If you served, you are generally eligible, but about maintaining your priority group status. VA healthcare is structured into 8 priority groups, and your placement determines everything from how quickly you can enroll to whether you have co-pays for prescriptions and appointments. Veterans with a 50% or higher service-connected rating are typically placed in Priority Group 1, which offers the most comprehensive care with the lowest or no co-pays. If your disability rating is reduced, as discussed in the first point, your priority group status can drop instantly, increasing your out-of-pocket costs and potentially limiting access to certain specialized services. Protection requires vigilance over your disability rating as well as proactive enrollment. The VA often requires annual income verification or updates, particularly for veterans in lower priority groups, groups 5 through 8. Failure to respond to these requests for updated financial information can lead to temporary suspension of enrollment. Imagine a veteran who receives a letter requesting proof of income, mistakenly throws it away assuming it is junk mail, and then finds their enrollment suspended just as they need a critical procedure. The bureaucratic nightmare of restoring that enrollment, especially in an emergency, is a severe consequence of poor administrative management. Furthermore, protecting this benefit means understanding the nuances of specialized care. For example, if you are seeking care for a specific service-connected condition, you must ensure all providers, both VA and Community Care, Mission Act, correctly link that treatment to your service connection. If the linkage is missing, you could be wrongly billed, leading to unexpected debt and administrative confusion that takes months to untangle. Protecting VA healthcare is an administrative marathon, requiring you to confirm your priority group every year, respond immediately to all financial verification requests, and ensure that every treatment is correctly coded to maintain the full scope of benefits you have earned without the burden of unnecessary fees or delays. The lifelong value of this benefit is astronomical, particularly in retirement, but its accessibility is entirely dependent on administrative compliance. The fourth benefit, education benefits. Like the post-9/11 GI Bill, is AEO's benefit that is not inherently lifelong for everyone, which makes protecting it even more critical. For those who separated before January 1, 2013, the post-9/11 GI Bill, Chapter 33, had a 15-year delimiting date, a hard expiration date. If you were in that category and did not use your benefits, they are gone forever. For those who separated after that date, the benefit is now generally unlimited, the Forever GI Bill provision, provided you remain eligible. However, the protection challenge shifts to the on-transferability of the benefit to dependents. If you intended to transfer your GI Bill to your spouse or children, that decision had to be made while you were still on active duty, often requiring a minimum service commitment post-transfer election. Veterans who separated without making that transfer election, perhaps assuming they could do it later, permanently lose the ability to provide that educational legacy to their family. This is one of the most heartbreaking mistakes veterans make. The benefit itself is lifelong only if it is secured and managed properly while in service. Once you separate, that door often closes. Furthermore, protecting the value of the benefit involves careful utilization. If a veteran starts a degree program and fails multiple classes, the VA counts those months of entitlement used, even if the degree is never completed. They are essentially wasting months of their benefit without receiving the educational value. Protecting this means treating the entitlement like a limited, precious resource, ensuring that every month of tuition and housing allowance is maximized toward a valuable credential. For dependents using Chapter 35, DEA, the protection is about timing. They must use it before strict age limits expire. The YOMAR educational benefit is a one-time investment in human capital. Protecting it means adhering to activation deadlines, transfer deadlines, and maximizing its use through successful academic performance. The fifth area requiring stringent protection is VA life insurance. Specifically, the conversion of service members' group life insurance, SGLI, or Veterans Group Life Insurance, VGLI. When a service member separates, they are typically covered by SGLI for 120 days. To maintain guaranteed, lifelong coverage without the need for a medical exam, a massive advantage for veterans with service-connected conditions that might make commercial insurance prohibitively expensive. They must convert that SGLI to VGLI. The protection window is razor thin. You must apply for VGLI within 1 year and 120 days of separation. If you miss that window by even a single day, you permanently forfeit the right to VGLI coverage unless you can prove you are totally disabled, which is a complex process. Missing this deadline means a veteran with a serious service-connected condition might be entirely uninsurable or face astronomical commercial premiums, leaving their family unprotected. This is a critical, time-sensitive protection measure. Once the VGLI policy is secured, protection shifts to premium payment. Unlike compensation, which is automatic, VGLI requires monthly premium payments that increase every 5 years based on the veteran's age. If payments lapse, the policy is canceled and restoration is extremely difficult. Protecting this benefit means setting up reliable automatic payments and understanding the age-based premium increases so the policy does not lapse unexpectedly years down the line. Furthermore, veterans need to protect the value of the coverage by regularly reviewing their beneficiary designations. Divorce, marriage, or the birth of children necessitates an immediate review of the policy to ensure the funds go to the intended recipients, preventing years of legal disputes for surviving family members. The lifelong security provided by guaranteed insurance coverage is lost the moment the conversion deadline is missed or the premiums stop flowing. Our sixth major area of protection centers on permanent and total P&T status. This designation is the gold standard for many veterans, indicating that their service-connected conditions are both permanent and severe enough to prevent gainful employment. P&T status unlocks a host of ancillary, lifelong benefits, including CHAMP VA healthcare for dependents, property tax exemptions in many states, and eligibility for specific educational benefits. Losing P&T status is catastrophic, and the biggest threat to this status often comes from the veteran themselves. Once P&T is granted, the veteran must understand that filing a new claim for an unrelated condition or filing for an increase in a previously rated condition can inadvertently trigger a review of the entire P&T file. The VA sometimes interprets a veteran's claim for an increase as an indication that the veteran is still actively managing their health and may question the permanence of the existing conditions. While filing a new claim for an unrelated condition should not, in theory, trigger a review of the static conditions in the complex world of VA bureaucracy, files often get pulled for comprehensive review when any change is requested. Protection here means extreme caution. If a veteran has 100% P&T, they must carefully weigh the marginal benefit of seeking a small increase in a 10% rating against the monumental risk of opening the file to scrutiny that could jeopardize the P&T status itself. This is a strategic protection. Furthermore, protection involves understanding the medical evidence that supports permanence. If a veteran with P&T status undergoes a successful surgical procedure that significantly improves a condition, e.g., a joint replacement that restores near full function, the VA has grounds to argue the condition is no longer permanent or totally disabling, even years after the P&T was granted. Protecting P&T status means continuous medical documentation that emphasizes the residual functional impairment, even after treatment, reinforcing the static nature of the disability. The benefits tied to P&T are often more valuable than the compensation itself, making its defense a top priority. The seventh crucial yet time-limited benefit that must be protected is Dependents Educational Assistance, DEA, or Chapter 35. This benefit provides educational support to the children and spouses of veterans who are 100% P&T or who died on active duty or as a result of a service-connected disability. The protection here is entirely centered on meeting strict time constraints, which are complex and unforgiving. For children, the benefit generally must be used between the ages of 18 and 26. If the child waits until they are 27, the benefit is gone forever. The clock is ticking from the moment they turn 18, or the date the VA determined the veteran was P&T, whichever is later. For spouses, the time limit is even more stringent, often expiring 10 years from the date the VA determined the veteran was P&T, or 20 years if the veteran died on active duty. If the spouse fails to utilize the benefit within that window, the opportunity is lost. Protection requires family planning and early communication. The veteran must inform their family about the existence of Chapter 35, the specific deadlines, and the necessity of applying for the benefit well in advance of the deadline. We see countless scenarios where a child, perhaps focused on trade school or immediate employment, assumes they can go back to college later, only to find the eligibility clock has run out. The lifelong impact of this benefit, the ability to secure an education debt-free, is immense, but it is not a right that can be claimed indefinitely. It is a time-bound opportunity that requires proactive utilization and administrative execution before the expiration date arrives. Furthermore, if the veteran's P&T status is ever reviewed or reduced, as discussed in Point 6, the dependent's eligibility for Chapter 35 could be immediately jeopardized, linking the protection of the EIA dependent benefit directly back to the veteran's need to defend their own rating. Our eighth area of lifelong protection focuses on a benefit that is managed at the state level but relies entirely on federal VA documentation. State property tax exemptions. Many states offer significant, sometimes 100% exemptions from property taxes for veterans with high service-connected disability ratings, often requiring 100% P&T status. This benefit can save thousands of dollars annually, providing substantial lifelong financial relief, particularly for retirees. The catch is that this benefit is almost never automatic, and it requires annual refiling and certification. With the local county assessor's office, the veteran might have a 100% P&T rating that the VA considers permanent, but the local tax authority still requires the veteran to submit a letter from the VA confirming their current rating every single year. The common mistake is assuming that since the VA rating is permanent, the tax exemption automatically rolls over. It does not. If the veteran misses the local filing deadline, which is often in early spring, they forfeit the exemption for that entire tax year and must pay the full property tax bill. Protecting this benefit means creating a strict annual administrative calendar. It means securing the necessary VA documentation, often a recent rating decision letter or a summary of benefits letter, well in advance of the local deadline, and submitting it with the required local forms. Furthermore, protection means staying informed about legislative changes in their specific state, as state laws governing the eligibility percentage or the maximum exempted value can change, requiring the veteran to adjust their filing strategy. The financial protection offered by this exemption is lifelong, but the administrative burden to secure it is annual and non-negotiable. The ninth area, and one of the most sensitive, involves protecting the veteran's financial autonomy through the VA's fiduciary program. This is the protection of self-determination. If the VA determines that a veteran receiving compensation is unable to manage their own financial affairs due to injury or illness, they can declare the veteran incompetent for VA purposes and appoint a fiduciary, a third party, to manage and disperse the veteran's funds. This determination is designed to protect vulnerable veterans from exploitation or mismanagement, but it can also feel like a complete loss of control. Protecting your financial autonomy means two things. First, maintaining clear evidence of your competency, especially if you have conditions that might lead the VA to question your capacity. Avoid severe TBI, advanced dementia, or certain mental health diagnoses. Second, if a fiduciary is appointed, protecting your autonomy means understanding the specific, detailed process required to appeal the incompetency finding and regain control of your funds. This process usually involves providing overwhelming medical evidence from specialized doctors, often requiring a detailed psychological evaluation that directly contradicts the VA's initial finding. This is not a simple administrative fix. It requires a concerted, often legally assisted effort to prove the veteran is capable of managing their money. Veterans often make the mistake of assuming that once they feel better, the VA will automatically restore their competency. They won't. The veteran must proactively file a request for a finding of competency restoration, supported by robust, current medical evidence. Losing control of your finances to a fiduciary, even a well-meaning one, is a profound loss of lifelong independence. Protecting against it requires proactive self-advocacy and documentation of financial management skills. Finally, the 10th benefit that requires protection, particularly as veterans age, is access to aid and attendance, A&A, or housebound benefits. These are supplemental benefits paid on top of existing disability compensation or pension to veterans who require the assistance of another person for daily living activities or who are largely confined to their homes. These benefits provide crucial financial support for long-term care, in-home assistance, or nursing home costs. Protecting access to A&A requires continuous, detailed medical documentation that clearly demonstrates the need for assistance. Unlike disability compensation, which focuses on functional impairment for work, A&A focuses on functional impairment for self-care. A veteran who is 70% disabled and manages fine at age 60 might require A&A at age 80. The protection challenge is ensuring the medical records accurately reflect the current level of dependency. If a veteran is relying on a family member for bathing, dressing, and medication management, but the doctor's notes simply say, "Patient is stable," the VA will deny the claim. Protection means working closely with physicians, caregivers, and family members to ensure that the medical evidence explicitly details the need for assistance with activities of daily living, ADLs, or instrumental activities of daily living, IADLs. Furthermore, there is a distinct financial protection element, especially if the veteran is applying for A&A as part of the non-service connected pension. This pension has strict limits on net worth and income. Veterans must protect their eligibility by carefully structuring their assets and understanding the 3-year look-back period for asset transfers, ensuring they do not inadvertently disqualify themselves from the benefit that will pay for their late-life care. The lifelong security of dignified aging is dependent on accurate, current, and consistent medical evidence supporting the claim for increased aid. Now, let's take a deep breath and understand the sheer volume of administrative vigilance required to keep these benefits secured for life. We have covered the foundational compensation, the housing security, the health lifeline, the educational legacy, the insurance safety net, the P&T gold standard, the dependent support, the tax relief, the personal autonomy, and the late life care funding. Every single one of these 10 benefits is a powerful tool earned through service, but every one is vulnerable to neglect, misunderstanding, or a missed deadline. The VA system is designed to respond to evidence and adherence to regulation, not to emotional appeals or historical service alone. Let us return to the first point. Disability compensation, and elaborate on the specific protective measures needed against reduction. When you receive a rating decision, you must scrutinize the language. If the VA uses the phrase "scheduled for future examination," you know you are on the clock. Protection means immediately gathering evidence that proves your condition is static or deteriorating, even if you feel fine right now. For mental health conditions, protection means continuous engagement with therapy and medication management, even during periods of perceived stability. The moment you stop, the VA assumes maximal medical improvement has been reached. Consider the veteran with HISU, a 30% rating for a knee condition. They get physical therapy for 2 years, feel great, and stop seeing the doctor. 5 years later, the VA schedules an RFE. The C&P examiner notes the veteran has not sought treatment in 3 years and reports the knee feels pretty good. The rating drops to 10%. The veteran must now file an appeal showing that while they stopped formal treatment, they still experience pain and functional limitation, which is much harder to prove without recent medical documentation. Protection involves treating the VA claim like a chronic legal case that requires intermittent maintenance. Furthermore, protection involves understanding the concept of TDIU, total disability based on individual unemployability. If you are receiving TDIU, which pays at the 100% rate because your service-connected conditions prevent you from maintaining substantially gainful employment, you must protect this status by ensuring your reported income does not exceed the federally established poverty level, the marginal employment limit. If you take a job that pays above this limit, even for a short period, you jeopardize your TDIU status. Protection here means being fully transparent with the VA about all employment activities and ensuring any income earned is truly marginal or is earned in a protected environment, like sheltered workshops. Losing TDIU means losing 100% pay and all the associated P&T benefits, making income reporting a critical lifelong protective measure. The difference between a protected 100% P&T rating and a vulnerable 100% TDIU rating is substantial, and the vigilance required for TDIU is far greater. Moving to the VA Home Loan Guarantee. The protection extends beyond simple entitlement restoration. It also involves protecting the benefit from misrepresentation or fraud. While rare, if a veteran uses the VA loan to purchase an investment property without ever occupying it as a primary residence, a clear violation of the occupancy requirement, they risk the VA demanding repayment of the guaranteed amount and potentially banning them from using the benefit ever again. Protection means adhering strictly to the occupancy requirements and understanding the difference between a VA loan and a standard conventional loan. Another protective measure is understanding the power of assumption. If you sell your home to another eligible veteran who assumes your VA loan, your entitlement may not be restored unless the new veteran substitutes their entitlement for yours. If they do not, your entitlement remains tied up in that property, potentially for decades. Protecting your lifelong ability to use the loan means ensuring that any sale is structured to fully release your liability and restore your entitlement, requiring careful review of the closing documents and the subsequent filing of VA Form 26-1880. This is a complex legal and financial maneuver that, if ignored, can severely limit future housing options. In the realm of VA healthcare, protecting your access means understanding the community care rules under the Mission Act. Veterans often assume that if they are authorized to see a provider in the community, that authorization lasts indefinitely. It does not. Community care is authorized for a specific number of visits or a specific duration. Protection means ensuring that as the authorization nears its limit, the veteran or their representative proactively contacts the VA to request an extension or new authorization. If the veteran continues to see the community provider after the authorization expires, the VA will deny payment, leaving the veteran responsible for the entire bill. This is a common costly mistake. Protection is administrative diligence. Always confirm the authorization status before every community care appointment. Furthermore, protecting the quality of care involves understanding your right to appeal a denied treatment. If the VA denies a specific medication, procedure, or piece of equipment, the veteran has the right to appeal that clinical decision. Protecting your health often means navigating the bureaucracy of clinical appeals, a process that ensures you receive the highest standard of care earned through service. When protecting your education benefits, particularly the GI Bill, the focus must shift to debt protection. If a veteran enrolls in school and then drops a course after the drop-add period, the VA may determine that the IGE veteran was overpaid the housing allowance, BAH, for that month, leading to a debt owed back to the VA. If the veteran fails to repay this debt, the VA can withhold future compensation payments, jeopardizing the very first benefit we discussed. Protecting the educational benefit means maintaining good academic standing and immediately notifying the VA and the school certifying official of any change in enrollment status. This prevents the accumulation of significant, unexpected debt that can disrupt a veteran's financial stability for years. This administrative hygiene is paramount to ensuring the benefit remains a tool for advancement, not a source of financial stress. Regarding BANO, VA life insurance. The protection of VGLI involves understanding the premium structure and the non-guaranteed nature of dividends. Noist. Some older VA policies, like the National Service Life Insurance, NSLI, may pay annual dividends. Veterans often rely on these dividends to offset the rising cost of premiums. However, dividends are not guaranteed and can fluctuate based on the policy's performance. Protection means ensuring that even if the dividend is lower than expected, the veteran has sufficient funds to cover the full premium payment. Relying solely on the dividend to pay the premium is a risky strategy that can lead to unexpected policy lapse. The lifelong security of the insurance hinges on the veteran treating the premium as a fixed, mandatory expense, regardless of dividend performance. The protective measures for IAS, P&T status pause must include a deep understanding of the AW, Special Monthly Compensation, SMC. ERS. SMC is an additional significant monthly payment for veterans with P&T status who have specific severe losses or needs, e.g., loss of use of an extremity, need for aid, and attendance. If a veteran is receiving SMC, they must be extremely careful when filing any new claim, as the VA might review whether the SMC is still warranted. For example, if a veteran is receiving SMC for the loss of use of a hand and then undergoes a specialized surgery that restores significant function, the VA may reduce the SMC. Protection means ensuring that any medical intervention is carefully documented to show the remaining functional limitations, thereby defending the continued need for SMC, which is often a larger payment than the standard compensation. P&T is the foundation, but SMC is the critical enhancement that must also be robustly defended through medical evidence. In Protecting Dependents Educational Assistance, Chapter 35. The key is understanding the change in eligibility status. If a veteran who is 100% P&T has their status reduced, which we established is a risk, the dependent's eligibility for Chapter 35 is immediately suspended or terminated. Protection here involves the veteran maintaining their P&T status, but also the dependent having a contingency plan. If the veteran's status is under review, the dependent should accelerate their use of the benefit, if possible, because the benefit is only guaranteed while the veteran maintains the P&T rating. This interdependence makes the protection of the veteran's rating a family affair. For P&T, property tax exemptions. The protective measure involves understanding the distinction between the state and local requirements. Even if the state law grants the exemption based on the VA rating, the local county assessor may require specific local forms or deadlines that differ from neighboring counties. Protection means actively engaging with the local tax office every year, not relying on general state guidance. Furthermore, if the veteran moves to a new state, they must immediately research and apply for the new state's exemption, as the benefit does not transfer across state lines. Failing to reestablish the exemption in a new jurisdiction is a costly administrative oversight. Protecting financial autonomy. through the fiduciary program requires veterans to proactively document their financial literacy and management skills. If a veteran has a condition that makes them vulnerable to an incompetency finding, they should maintain detailed records showing they pay bills on time, manage investments responsibly, and understand their budget. This preemptive documentation can be used to counter any potential VA inquiry into their competency. The protection here is not just medical, it is financial evidence that proves sound judgment and administrative capability, which is the ultimate defense against the appointment of a fiduciary. Finally, protecting CHAR, aid and attendance, housebound benefits, involves understanding the PAR difference between service-connected and non-service-connected ANA. If the veteran is applying for ANA on top of their service-connected disability compensation, the asset limits are irrelevant. However, if they are applying for ANA on top of the non-service-connected pension, the asset limits are extremely strict. Protection means understanding which path they are on and adhering to the relevant financial requirements. For the non-service-connected route, protection is complex estate planning to ensure assets do not exceed the limit, potentially requiring the use of trusts or specific financial vehicles, which must be executed years in advance of the need. This is a long-term protective strategy essential for securing late-life financial support. We have established that securing these lifelong benefits is a continuous, multifaceted administrative and medical endeavor. It demands attention to detail, proactive engagement with both VA and local authorities, and a deep understanding of regulatory deadlines. The mistake most veterans make is assuming permanence where the VA only sees a temporary status waiting for review. The protection of your earned benefits is not a one-time task. It is a lifelong commitment to documentation and vigilance. Your service earned these benefits, but only your ongoing administrative discipline will protect them for the future you deserve. Do not let bureaucratic oversight or simple inaction rob you of the security you fought so hard to achieve.